Hi, Kaylin. It's Dad here. And we're going to read another chapter of the Christmasaurus. I hope you've been enjoying it, and it's been really good. With me, I've got Pikachu. We're going to read the story with you. So, what happened in the last chapter? If you remember, William wasn't feeling very happy, but things started to get a bit better for him. And remember, he wrote a letter to Santa. Have you written your letter to Santa yet? No? It might be worthwhile having a discussion with Daddy and Mummy about what you want from Santa. And then we can send it off in a letter. Or maybe you'll get a reply back. That'd be really cool. Don't ask for a dinosaur. I don't think it's going to happen. So, Pikachu's just going to take a seat, and we're going to start the story. Chapter 11. Watching William. The next morning, William woke up feeling a lot less rotten than he had the night before. Now, he was just looking forward to popping his letter to Santa in the postbox on the way to visit his favourite place in the world, the museum. William had loved visiting the museum for as long as he could remember. Not just because Mr. Trundle worked there part-time in the gift shop, so William got free dinosaur stickers, awesome. But because to William, it was the most magical place in the world. It was the only place where William could escape from the world when he was feeling rotten and see huge models of dinosaurs and real dinosaur bones and skeletons. At the museum, William didn't care that his friends had all deserted him and signed up to Brenda Payne's Army of Pain. He actually quite liked being on his own. He could be as slow as he liked and get lost in his own imaginary world full of dinosaurs, and that's exactly what he planned to do today. Mr. Trundle wheeled William out of their wonky little house, which was covered from wonky chimney to wonky flower beds and colourful Christmas lights. Awesome. He locked up and they went down the ramp that led from the front door to the pavement outside, then headed through the town, William holding on tight to the letter for Santa. As they wheeled down the street towards the big red postbox, which was now wearing a white hat of snow, they passed a woman who William had seen a few times before. She was a very pretty lady, and when she walked by, Mr. Trundle said, "Merry Christmas," and nodded in a silly old-fashioned sort of way, as though he were tipping an invisible top hat. But the lady said nothing back. In fact, she quickly crossed over to the other side of the street, shaking her head disapprovingly. "What a Scrooge lady," said William. "Naughty list for sure," said Mr. Trundle as he patted his invisible top hat back on his head. They both laughed as they continued towards the postbox. Suddenly, William applied the brakes on his wheelchair. "What's wrong, son?" said Mr. Trundle as they slowed to a stop. William had stopped because he'd seen something up ahead, something that made his heart sink. A glimpse of perfect, twirly blonde hair peeping out from behind the red postbox. Look, there's William and his dad in his wheelchair, and I think William's looking a little bit scared because who's that? Do you see who that is behind the postbox? That is Brenda Payne. Brenda Payne. Maybe I should post my letter tomorrow, William said nervously. The last thing he wanted right now was to see that stinker. "What on earth for, William? We're here now," Mr. Trundle said. "Let's just pop in the postbox and head to the museum." Mr. Trundle pushed William's chair and they carried on towards the postbox and Brenda. What was she doing hanging out next to a postbox anyway? She was pacing back and forth as if she were waiting for someone to show up. Then William saw her pause and smile as a little boy approached the postbox with his mother. William recognised him from school. It was Gregory, the boy who peed himself daily. As they got nearer, William could see that Brenda was up to no good. She had that look look at me, I'm so perfect sort of look in her face. But it didn't fool William. He slowed down again so he could see exactly what she was up to. Brenda had positioned herself in front of the postbox where Gregory walked up to post a letter. As he was about to reach up and pop it in the slot, Brenda's voice stopped him. "Good morning! That looks like a letter to Santa, am I right? Why don't you allow me to post that for you so you can get on with your Christmas shopping?" She said in such a sweet little voice that it almost made William's ears puke. "Oh, that's very sweet of you, my dear," said the boy's mother, completely fooled by Brenda's act. "Go on, Gregory dear, give the nice girl your letter and say thank you." "Thank you," Gregory said uncertainly as he handed over his letter and disappeared around the corner with his mother. That's when William saw her do it. Once Gregory was out of sight, Brenda carefully and precisely tore open the letter. Then she pulled out her school pencil case, which she'd been hiding behind the wall. She quickly Tipp-Exed over Gregory's address blew in it a bit more until Gregory's address had disappeared. Then she started scribbling something on the boy's letter. What an evil, horrible thing to do, thought William. His blood was boiling. If he could have, he would have jumped out of his chair and chased Brenda Payne down the street. She's up to something. I can't let her get away with it, he said to himself. Dad, I want to post my letter alone, by myself, William said. Mr. Trundle looked at the pretty little girl at the postbox, then smiled to himself. Okay, William, I get it, said Mr. Trundle with a smirk. Don't want Daddy cramping your style, eh? Dads don't cramp our style. Don't listen to that blasphemy. William rolled his eyes at how uncool his dad was sounding, then wheeled himself towards the postbox, whilst Mr. Trundle stayed back and pretended he wasn't with him. Dads are not uncool. Oi, William said quietly to Brenda, suddenly feeling more like his old self. Well, look who it is. Wheelie William, are you allowed out in the snow on that thing? Wouldn't want your wheels to go all rusty, Brenda said with a sickly sweet smile. What did you write on Gregor's letter? William demanded. Oh, this, Brenda said innocently. It's nothing really. Only my best plan ever. William stared at Brenda, who was calmly using her glue stick to reseal the envelope of Gregory's letter. You see, Willie, last year I was a little disappointed at the lack of presents in my stocking on Christmas morning. You may be surprised to find, I know I was, that I am on the naughty list, apparently. William wasn't surprised at all. Well, this year I'm not taking any chances. She's so evil. Though I've not been a good girl this year, although I've been a good girl this year, at least I think so. But just in case Santa, if he's even real, thinks differently, there are plenty of goody two-shoes in the town who'll most definitely be on his nice list. So I came up with a plan. Brenda did a merrily evil skip around William's wheelchair, like she was some sort of crazed ballerina dancing to music in her head. Look at that crazed ballerina. It's rather genius, really. If I simply put my address on the goody-goody nice letters, then all their presents will go to my house instead of theirs, she said, matter-of-factly, as if it were completely acceptable. It's brilliant, isn't it? Why struggle all year to be good when I've got a whole town of kids to be good for me, leaving me free to do whatever I want? William had heard enough. His face had gone purple with anger, as if he were about to explode in his chair, when a jolly voice called merrily from halfway down the street behind him. Everything all right, Willie? It was William's dad. Willie? Willie? His dad had actually just called him Willie, in front of Brenda Payne. William almost died right there on the spot. His dad's pet name hit him like a truck carrying 20 tons of fresh embarrassment, and William felt as if he were drowning in it. Brenda looked like she was about to burst out with delighted evilness. Did your dad just call you Willie? She giggled quietly. Dad, William groaned. What? You're not at school now, Willie Poos. Technically, I'm not breaking my promise, called Mr. Trundle cheekily from a spot halfway down the street. Willie Poos? Oh my goodness, that's brilliant, howled Brenda, with genuine evil eyes and evil tears of evil laughter in her evil eyes. That makes no sense. How have I never thought of that? Just you wait until we get back to... You can't get away with stealing people's Christmas presents, interrupted William. He thought that maybe bringing her attention back to her plan might distract her from this Willie nonsense. Want to bet? Snapped Brenda sharply. I'll tell on you, began William, but even as he was saying the words, he realised how awfully silly and immature that sounded. No, you won't, Willie Poos. Not unless you want the whole entire school to know your daddy's little secret name for his special ickle boy. William stared at her. Brenda smiled back. There was nothing he could do. She was going to get away with it. He quickly turned his own letter to Santa up his sleeve, making sure that no way bum-faced Brenda could get it. Well, I'd better be going. I got my address on enough nice kids' letters in there now to give me a good stocking full or two. Or free, said Brenda, slipping Gregory Peapant's letter into the black slot of the postbox. Have a nice day, Willie Poos. As she skipped off down the street, she waved happily to Mr. Trundle and called out, Merry Christmas, before disappearing around the corner. Mr. Trundle quickly joined William at the postbox, rubbing his hands together to keep them warm. She seems nice and friendly, said Mr. Trundle. Is she your friend? No, she's definitely not my friend, snapped William. But something in the way Mr. Trundle smiled knowingly to himself made William think he didn't believe him. Go on then, son. Pop your letter in and let's be going, said Mr. Trundle, eager to get out of the cold air. William pushed Brenda and her evil plan to the back of his mind and tried to enjoy the moment of posting his letter to Santa. It was always an exciting thing to do, but something felt different this year, and oddly enough, it wasn't anything to do with Brenda. Like there's William and his dad posting the letter. William suddenly had the strangest feeling that he was being watched. All the tiny little hairs in his arms and the back of his neck stood at end. And even though he was wrapped up in lots of lovely warm layers, he found himself feeling a bit shivery. It was a most peculiar sensation. Aren't you going to post your letter, William? Said Mr. Trundle. William put the cold, shivery feeling to the back of his mind as Mr. Trundle lifted him out of his chair and held him close to the shadow letter slot, which sat open like a huge mouth waiting to be fed. William gently popped his letter inside, and from the soft sound it made, he could tell that the postbox must be very full, probably with letters from all the other nice-list children in town that now bore Brenda Payne's address. As William got comfortably back in his chair, there it was again, that feeling that someone was watching him. His eyes scanned the streets around him. What's the matter, William? Asked Mr. Trundle, trying to see what William was looking at. But William couldn't see anyone else around. He could see all the way up the street to the back of their house, but there was no one there. The street was completely deserted. He must have been imagining it. I felt like someone was watching me, but it's gone now, said William. And so they left the postbox and continued their walk to the museum. But perhaps William should have paid more attention to that tiny little hairs on his arms and the back of his neck, because those hairs never lie. When those tiny little hairs stand up on end and make you go all shivery and goose-pimply, you can be sure of one thing. Someone is watching you. What William had failed to see when he popped his letter through the dark rectangular letter slot were two old, poky eyes looking back out at him from inside the post box. Someone was there. Someone was hiding inside. Someone was definitely watching William. And that's the end of that chapter. That was a very good chapter. I hope William enjoyed writing his letter to Santa and getting to post it. Now, as I said at the start, I really need you to think about what you want for Christmas. We're going to put it down on a letter, and then you need to post it. So you need to write a letter to Santa, get a stamp, put it in an envelope, and put it in the post box yourself. And then hopefully what you ask for, Santa will bring. And that'll be very exciting. Okay, you going to do it? Excellent. Okay, good night.